Well, right now I'm joined live by the former Ukrainian Defense Minister and the current advisor to the Ukrainian government, ANDRIY, ZAGORODNYUK, who joins us live from Kyiv. Thank you so much for your time. I want to ask you first about the F-16 fighter jets. This is a discussion that has been ongoing between the Ukrainian president and European and US leaders for some time. The US president has finally said that the US will train Ukrainian pilots to use these fighter jets and has agreed to allow Europe to send these fighter jets. What sort of impact could that have?
Well, I mean, tactical aviation, and particularly one of the latest generations tactical aviation, is going to make a profound difference, of course, because it's a source of a long-range firepower, which would do well against Russian jets and also as the striking aviation. So, essentially, this is one of the massive pieces of the overall combined arms capabilities, which Ukraine was always missing. Ukrainian all Soviet planes, even the ones which provided by the partners later during this war already, they're still missing some of the requirements, and they're still kind of losing in the battle to the Russians, mainly because of the range of the radars and the rockets which they can carry. So that would give a massive advantage, and many people can say that this would be a tipping point for actually winning the war, because of course those who rule the sky those who has air superiority is certainly going to have a massive advantage on the battlefield.
Of course, Russia says that any transfer of these F-16 fighter jets would bring into question NATO involvement and risk escalation. Do you have concerns of an escalation because of that?
They've been saying this about all weapons provided, starting from javelins, which work for a few kilometers, to Stinger missiles, to howitzers, to obviously to tanks, to air defense, and so on. So this is their standard statement, and they escalate as much as they can already. They already escalated pretty much all they could. Nuclear, they don't escalate to the nuclear, obviously, just because of the massive stance of the global community about that. So we don't believe that they have much room, and they keep saying this over and over again. I don't think partners, including United States government, already taking this as some sort of a major risk.
I want to turn now, if we can, to the front lines right now. Why is so much time, energy, bloodshed being spent on the city of Bachman? What's the significance of that city, and what was it like before the war?
Well, first of all, city of Bakhmut is in the center of Donetsk region. This is one of the key regions in the east, which Russians are trying to take. It is on the crossroads, so basically the side which controls the city controls the roads on the rest of the territory. Russians are trying to capture all Donetsk region. It's full of cities which, despite proximity to the front lines, but try to maintain, at least to some degree, a normal civilian life. There are children going to schools. There are people on the streets. There are like shops open and so on and so on. So of course, for us, we need to keep them, to keep Russians as far as possible from those cities where people trying to live some normal lives. For Russians, the Bakhmut was the key post, because obviously the Wagner Group and its armed forces announced back in several months ago that this is important goal for them. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to not to let them to obtain it. They already lost like over 100,000 people there, which is absolutely incredible, because it is actually not a city; it's a small town. Bakhmut. It's not a very large city at all. But because of its strategic location, it's important to us. So that's why our decision is purely military. It's not a political. It's not like PR or anything like this. It's a purely military feasibility decision.
And Russia's Wagner Group, of course, right now says it is in control of the city, that it's captured the center while Ukrainian troops surround it. They have also said they're going to start to evacuate and to hand this city, if indeed they are in control of it, over to Russian forces, the Russian army. What do you make of that, and what could that mean?
Well, first of all, they already announced it several times before, so that basically announcement has been made like several times, but indeed they moved into Bakhmut, so they do control most of the city. There are some districts of the town which are still under control of Ukraine, and Ukraine controls the surroundings. So essentially, they cannot exercise the control, a proper control over the city. It's extremely difficult situation there right now, indeed, and of course, Russian army put all their might, they put all their capabilities, including Wagner groups, which are putting people there regardless of the losses. So assuming that city has no walls and it has no barriers and it's in some sort of a valley, it's indeed difficult to hold it against just upcoming hordes of military personnel. But I don't think they will be able to properly control it ever, and I think that Bakhmut operation is not going to be successful for Russians still.
ANDRIY, we appreciate your time today. We wish you all the very best. Thank you so much.